Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're calling in from today. It's that day again. Hey, it's that day again, the wonderful Thursday. Now, we know we do get hiccups from every so often, but it's Thursday again. And what happens on a Thursday? What happens on a Thursday? On a Thursday, you tune into the Message Talk Show with host Alex Gordon. So good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. And hey, guys, I need you to grab a cup of water now. I need you to grab a cup of water. Yes, get some water. I need you to close down the tabs on your phone or on your PC. Close the tabs, because today we have a very special guest in house, and you need to give this gentleman some attention today, because he's been on a journey. He's been on a journey to where he is today. And sometimes we see people from afar and we see the end result. And we look and think, yes, I want some of that. I want to be that. But I tell you, if you were to walk in their shoe from day one, you would never want to be them. You would never want to be them, because the things they've been through, what they've done in their lives, and how they've persevered to be where they are today. And that's why we have to ask ourselves the question, what is success? Because success is different for everybody. Success is different for everybody. And to get where you are today has taken something. So today we have a gentleman in house. But before I introduce him, here's what you've got to do. Get a cup of water. Call your friends. Call your friends. Call your worst enemies. Call everybody you know. Get them to tune into the Message Talk Show. Because on the Message Talk Show, we speak with counselors, we speak with entrepreneurs, we speak with mission-centered, passionate people about what they want to do and help them to get their message out. We help them to go from unforgettable, unknown to unforgettable, unknown to unforgettable. You know why? Because we believe that it's mission-centered and passionate individuals who are changing this world one person at a time, one step at a time. So this morning, let me introduce to you a very special guest by the name of, I was going to call him Sir Jeff Lestz just then. But good morning, Jeff. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Alex. So good to be with you. I love your enthusiasm.
You love my enthusiasm. Hey, well, if you don't get yourself excited about life, who's going to get you excited about life, Jeff?
That's right.
Who's going to do that? Nobody can. Yeah, but today we have a Jeff in the house, and Jeff, it's been an awesome getting you on the show to come and speak to the millions of people across the world. Hey, I say in my imagination, we're talking to over 7 million people every time on the Message Talk Show. Now, even if it's just in my head, I know we're talking to some people, and therefore, if you're watching, wherever you're watching from this today, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. Just put a 1 in the chat to welcome Jeff Lestz to the Message Talk Show. Come on, guys, put a 1 in the chat wherever you are. It may be good morning, it may be evening, it may be afternoon, wherever you are. Just put a 1 in the chat so we can see you and acknowledge Jeff being on the show. So, Jeff, ordinarily, you'd be flying in from somewhere around the world. But in the past 12 months, we've been locked down at home. How have you been coping during this period?
I think it's like anything in our lives that, you look at something and you go, how can I take these lemons and make it into lemonade? And that's the attitude you have to have. So when lockdown happened in early 2020, like everybody else, we didn't like it. We were obviously concerned about health and everything else. And so Margot and I sat down and said, what can we do until this pandemic is over? Who knows how long it's going to last? And so we kind of laid out a game plan. It was a little bit like sort of walking in the fog, because you don't know how long it's going to be here. And our home is in central London. And we said, why don't we go someplace out in the country? So we've rented a beautiful home out in Bath, or as in my American accent, Bath. And we're just, it's interesting because our business has doubled, in the past 12 to 14 months. And I got to say, Margot and I, we've been married for over 45 years, and we're having more fun and more in love now than we've ever been. So we've just decided going into this that we were going to make it into a positive and do everything that we could within our control. And so life is good. I mean, in some ways I feel kind of bad saying that because I know that the world's full of so much trouble, but we just made a decision going into this because we know that our attitude affects our altitude, how high that you fly. And so really the past 12 months, I'm not saying it hasn't had some trials and tribulations, because it has, but it's just, we're in a good place. We're, I think, probably in the best season of our lives that we've ever been in.
Wow. And you're right in saying that we've never seen this time before. We've never been through something like this. And so you still have to take the worst of times and make it the best of times. You have to do something. You can't sit there and just accept life as it is, or what's been thrown at you. And I have to acknowledge those of you who've lost loved ones, those of you who have worked worked tirelessly during this time to help the rest of us survive. And it's amazing that we now recognize, even if we never recognized this before, how interconnected we are. Those times that we were standing outside and cheering the NHS for working through the period, for working so hard, and then give them a 1% pay rise to thank them. But we realize how interconnected we are and that we can't live without each other, Jeff.
That's right.
And sometimes we fail to acknowledge that. I can't do without you. You can't do without me.
Yeah. I think also, Alex, going into this, I remember, that we held a call with all of our team when the first lockdown happened. And I said, guys, this is not the end of the world. And if it is, there's nothing you can do about it. And so again, there's only a couple things that we can control. And one of them is our attitude. And
repeat that one again, Jeff. Repeat that one again, because that's a message for a lot of people. That statement that you just made, repeat that again.
Well, there's the majority of things are beyond our control, but there is one thing that we can control, and it does take discipline, and it's our attitude, because our attitude, as I said earlier, does affect our altitude and where we fly. I'm not talking about taking a holiday. I'm just talking about in life, how high you fly is going to be directly correlated to the attitude that you go into it with. If you go in with a bad attitude, I just about guarantee you that the outcome is going to be bad. Go into it with a good attitude. Not saying you won't have problems, because you will. That's just part of life. But the outcome is going to come out a lot better, and you'll be a much more proactive person thinking, how can I turn lemons into lemonade?
Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where you're joining us today. We're talking to CEO Jeff Lestz. Against all odds, the path to success against all odds. This is a gentleman who have, against all odds, become the person that he is meant to be. And not only he has become himself, he is helping thousands of people across the world step into their destiny, step into their purpose, walk in their gift. So get a pen and paper out, guys. Get your pen, get your paper, take some notes. And Jeff, we already have people tuning in saying, and they're giving us the ones. Yes, we have the fan club is coming in. Yes, Sharon Gordon there putting a 1 in. Yes, who we have? We have Lamb. Is that I am menu? Okay, whoever that is. And then we have Leroy Corbin put a 1 in. Hey, people, I welcome you on board, Jeff. They're great to have you.
It was good to see. It was good to see your daughter on there, Sharon.
Yes, my daughter. That's my better half. My daughter Sharon. So we're talking today about against all odds, and we're going to dive into the meat of this, because when I look at the trajectory of your life, starting from where you were to where you are now, and I look at that and think, that is a movie in itself. A film producer must be about to pick this up, Jeff, to make a film out of this. So where did this all begin, Jeff? Go back to the beginning for us.
Yeah. Well, Alex, if I can just say, that when you and I spoke about doing this, and the title of it, which is about success, I was thinking, what's the best definition of success? And I heard this years ago, and I know you're going to like this. I know people are going to want to write it down. Is success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. And oftentimes we define success as, oh, wow, they've done this in their life. They accomplished this, or they've got so much in assets or income or whatever it is. And I think one of the big things for me in life has just been realizing that success really is a journey. I don't know that you ever totally arrive. But let me go back and just kind of share a little bit of my story. I was originally born and raised in Chicago in an Orthodox Jewish family. And my mother and father had 3 children. I'm the youngest of the 3. My father was a very motivated guy. He worked for a company, but he also owned his own business. And he was an engraver, and ended up having a mental breakdown, lost his business and lost his job, was bankrupt. He ended up going into a mental hospital for some therapy, and the income dried up, and literally within a few months we had lost everything. They repossessed our home, our car, furniture, and my parents unfortunately were in debt, heavily in debt. This would have been in the early 1960s. And my father was just so depressed over it, and had gotten out of the hospital. And after a couple of months, sadly took his own life, and left my mother penniless, as well as emotionally distraught. And she had a nervous breakdown, became an alcoholic and a drug addict. And the three of us kids stayed with her for a while, and then we were taken away from her. She was declared incompetent, and we were all separated into different orphanages and foster homes. And then my father died when I was 5. My mother died when I was 8, and I started living in an orphanage at 7. And so from the age 7 until I was 13, I was in and out of 5 different foster homes and orphanages, and just kind of kicked from pillar to post about once every 18 to 24 months. And just a very troubled kid, I mean, I was going, to school, to regular school, like any other kid. And then on Saturdays, I would go to what they call Shabbat school, Sabbath school, or Hebrew school. And, I was raised in the Jewish faith. But honestly, in my heart, I really didn't believe there was a God. It was like, if there's a God, why are my parents dead? Why am I getting kicked around? Why is life so difficult? And sadly, at age 13, we hear a lot about teenage suicide. I attempted suicide, slashed both my wrists. My foster father, the foster family I was living with, found me lying in a pool of blood, and, came into the bedroom and found me and rushed me to the hospital. And then I got admitted also to a mental hospital. For your listeners, if they ever want to look up where I was admitted, the name of the place is called Dunning, Dunning. If you go onto YouTube, and it was one of these old-time psychiatric places, Alex, where, like they used to do shock treatment and lobotomies. I mean, it was a proper One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest. If you've ever seen that movie, it was exactly like that. It's horrible. And I was there for a couple of months, and at 13 years old, I ran away and lived on the streets and slept on the streets and alleys, beaches, whatever I could do, ate out of garbage bins, and did that for about 6 months. It was in the summertime. And then the winter hit, and I was sleeping in cars and, rooftops and doing whatever I could do to survive. And then I met up with some hippies that were drug dealers, and they took me in, and I started selling. I was 14 years old at that time, started selling drugs on the streets of Chicago. So someone asked me once, Alex, they said, what was your first job? I said, it was pharmaceutic sales when I was 14. And
Jeff,
so I continued to live like that until I was 15 years old. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want me to stop there?
Yeah, stop there a second, because I want to pull you back to where, at the age of 13, where you decided to take your life, and as a young boy, no father in your life, no real purpose in your life, nobody around you that's a significant influence to help change your thoughts. What was going through your mind at that point in time?
Yeah, I'm a loser. I was in trouble. Yeah, just there's no hope, no future. Nobody loves me. Kind of I don't know any other way to describe it other than a pity party. But I certainly at that age was, you got your hormones raging. You're 13 years old. You're just kind of, coming into puberty. That all those issues, plus the fact that, Alex, when you're a foster kid, you always know that you're a little bit like a stray dog. Holidays are there, and all the other kids, the grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, they're not yours. And so you always feel a little bit kind of like the odd one out. And yeah, I was just a very troubled kid. And sadly, I looked at my father's life and I said, well, maybe he had the right answer. And so, I was just hopeless is probably the best word.
Well, while you were going through this, Jeff, and this moment in your life, were there any family members that could have just stepped in and held you, just hold you? Were there any family members that could have done that?
Yeah.
At all?
Well, sadly, we had 7 aunts and uncles that were all living, all pretty well to do. A few of them that were, millionaires, but they certainly all were doing okay in life. 3 out of the 4 grandparents were living, and nobody made an attempt to go to the state of Illinois and to even apply to take us in as foster kids or adopt us, or anything else. And so from a natural family, no. Nobody made a move. I had one aunt and uncle that would come visit us at the orphanage, and some of them that would write, but nobody attempted to really, make a move. Now, I do have to say the foster families that I was with were very caring, kind people. You hear about these horror. I had, you hear about these horror stories. I had one foster mother that, used to beat me up. And I don't mean this in the wrong way, but I'm the one that egged her on. I knew how to push her hot buttons, and she and I just clashed. I'm not justifying what she did, because she shouldn't have done it, but also shouldn't have been such a smart aleck either. And so, the foster families were good people. They really were. And so it certainly wasn't anything that they did, but it was just, I was just tired. I was tired of like I say, being the stray dog, tired of being kicked around. And at 13, I remember the night, hope I don't start tearing up on this, but I remember the night, Alex, sitting there writing a suicide note and thinking that there's nothing to live for. I'm a loser. I don't have a future. And it seems like I'm in everybody's way. Nobody wants me. Nobody cares, which wasn't true. But to me, that was just how life was turning out.
Wow. But it probably almost feels like you couldn't do anything right. You yourself couldn't do anything right, because as adults just look at you and think, what is he up to? What is he doing?
Yeah.
What is
Right.
what is he getting up to? But Jeff, would you say then, at the age of, I think there is a story there where you spoke to one of the foster parents and got them to take you in, and it is said that this was your first deal that you ever made, where you negotiated with an adult for them to take you into their own house. What did you do then? How did you get to that point where you felt so confident you could negotiate with an adult to say, take me into your family?
Well, the situation, and of course it's in my book, Against All Odds, but the situation is that this foster family I was with, the foster mother and I had just been, baiting each other. I mean, just for a couple of years. I mean, she'd been beating me up. And finally I had enough and slugged her back, which I shouldn't have, but I did. And then the foster father just, I don't know any other way to describe it, just beat the crap out of me. And when I went to school, I had black eye and a fat lip and, bruised all over. So they called my social worker and he said, Jeff, we have no Jewish families to put you with, so we're going to have to put you in a Jewish orphanage. And I said, well, what if I could find a Jewish family that would take me in? To which his response was, what makes you think, I would have been 12 at that time, what makes you think that you can do that? And I said, well, would you at least give me a shot? He said, yeah, go for it. So I called up my former scout leader, which their name was Shanks, and talked to them, and they decided to take me in. And that was actually the family that I lived with. Sadly, a year after that was the family I lived with when I attempted suicide.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you started to develop the skills of dealing with adults. Probably you were negotiating with adults all the time, negotiating with social workers, negotiating with people. And so coming out of that, how did you then develop the attitude of thinking, okay, if I can't get my own way, then I'm going to get my way? It's something like that. I detected that all the time, where you actually just looked at something and thought, right, I'm going to get my way, regardless of what they're thinking. I'm going to get my way. How did you shape those kind of thoughts in your head?
I think it's like anything in life. Necessity is the mother of invention. It's kind of like, when you're living out on the streets, how do you feed yourself? Well, you figure out you either have to steal food, you have to beg for food, or you have to go behind a restaurant, after closing and go through the bin and, eat the leftovers, which is not nice, that's for sure. But I think it was a matter of survival. And I think because at a very young age, after my father died, my mother certainly was not taking care of us. I mean, she just lost it, Normally when I got up for school, my sister dressed me. My mother was still passed out from drinking the night before or taking sleeping pills. And so for those few years that we lived with her, really my sister, who was only 2 years older than me, was really my mother. So I think it was more about survival instincts and just, having to figure it out without an adult around. And so, I think that those years from age 5, certainly until I went into the orphanage, it was kind of like, you just gave me some independence. I remember when I was 9 living at the orphanage, I ran away and I was gone for a week or so. And when I came back, the social worker said, Jeff, where did you think you were going? I said, listen, I'm 9 years old. I don't need adults anymore. Just leave me alone. I can survive. So I'm not sure where I got that from. I'm really not. I don't know, but I had it. It became part of my DNA. Even when I was living out on the streets as a teenager, I just had that survival instinct in me that, that grit, that determination that I'm going to make it.
So we've laid the foundation from where you've come, from where you've sprung from. And that key word that you've said, the survival instinct, that ability to survive. Do you believe that ability to survive, that instinct that you developed, then you were able to take that into your entrepreneurship years and the start of your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I think especially in those early years up until I was 15, it was more of it was a real street survival. It was almost instinctive grit, determination, but also with a bad attitude. And then when I was 15, something tremendous happened in my life that really helped me turn around my life, get off of drugs, get off the streets, get out of the gang, and really straighten my life up, get back in school, and get on the right track and start reading the right books and thinking the right thoughts. And it was a total turnaround at 15 years old. I mean, Margot asked me the other day, she said, "Where do you think your life would be now had that not have happened?" And I said, I think prison or dead.
Wow. So that crossroad, it could have easily gone another way.
Oh,
It could have easily gone another way, Jeff. And
yeah.
we wouldn't have been sitting
Scary to think about it.
That's scary.
Yeah.
But the reason why it didn't go another way, you met some people that touched your life. You want to talk about those people?
Yeah. So while I was in Chicago, the drug dealers decided to leave, and they started a hippie commune 400 miles away and asked me if I wanted to go. And I said, no, but I'd like to take over your business. So even at 14, I was entrepreneurial. So I took over their franchise, and knew where to buy and where to sell and all those things. And that's how I survived for that, that period of time. So when I was 15, Alex, and again, I remember the night where I just, once again, hopeless, thinking about suicide again, just thought my life is going nowhere. If life doesn't change for me, I'm going to become a junkie. And I cried out to God and I said, God, I don't know if you're real or not. In fact, I doubt that you are. But if you're the same God that I was taught about as a kid, if you're really the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, help me get my life straightened out. Cried myself to sleep. 2 weeks later, I hitchhiked 400 miles away to visit my friends on the hippie commune, the drug dealers. And when I got there, to my dismay, they had all quit doing drugs, had straightened up their lives, and I walked in on them, and they're having a Bible study. And when they and all four,
you hitchhiked 400 miles.
Yeah.
We don't even want to drive 400 miles in. When we do 100 miles, we're thinking that's too long. That's too long a journey. You hitchhiked 400 miles.
Yeah, at 15 years old.
That is amazing. You see, and that thought process, it means that at that age, you didn't see any danger whatsoever. There's nothing called danger there. You just thought, right, you think it, you just do it.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, life back in those days in the early 1970s was, free love and all the hippie days and, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And that was the lifestyle, So after 2 years of living on the streets, I mean, I wasn't afraid of anything. I remember telling people off that were 6 foot tall, and I was, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, not even 5 foot tall. But I just had this, I don't know, this boldness and this smart aleckiness about me that no, I wasn't really afraid of much. That's for sure.
I've got a fire sign coming up from Jaden here. He's highlighted the fire that's inside of you. You had fire inside of you from a very early age. And
Yeah.
then Sharon is saying that's right. Oh, people are flowing through and they're talking about you, Jeff. Now, oh wow, that is certainly wow, Jeff. It's a wow, because what we're saying now is that if you have a kid that's gone off the rails, if you have a son that has been deemed as a bad boy by society, don't give up on that kid. That's what we're saying right now. Don't give up on them, because something good can come out of them.
Absolutely.
All it takes is one person in your life seeing beyond the things that you're doing, but to see the good inside of you.
Yeah.
Just to see the good inside of you. And if I can pull out the good inside of you, if I can go past the badness, if I can go past the attitude and just pull out the good inside of you, if I can just pull that out, you pull out a rock star. You pull out someone who's going to change other people's lives. You pull out someone who's going to impact the world. And certainly that's what you have gone on to do. Someone pulled out the goodness inside of you. It must have took them a lot of energy to pull the goodness out of you, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I say this, in that we cannot do without each other, Jeff. We cannot do with each other. We live independent lives, but we coexist. And if we can recognize that one person can make a difference in my life, two people can make a difference. What if I was making a difference in other people's lives? Now, you weren't thinking that at the time, but the people that were touching your life were certainly thinking, if only I can help this kid.
Yeah.
Even when you were admitted to a mental institute, that alone could just blow your head off. Being admitted, being sectioned. In the UK, we call that being sectioned. Being sectioned and admitted to a mental institute alone could just blow your mind and blow any sense of reason from your life. But it didn't. Yeah. Because other people were there. So let's take us into the entrepreneurial years, Jeff. Now, so you've been surviving on the street. You've been learning to buy and sell. You've been learning to buy and sell pharmaceuticals. You know how to do deals. You know how to talk to people. You know how to spot the people who will buy, and you know how to spot the people who won't buy. So you've learned to navigate the waters. How did the entrepreneurial side come up? How did that come up?
Yeah. Well, if I can just take 30 seconds and finish that, what happened at 15, and of course they can read the whole story here, as you know, Alex, in Against All Odds. I know you mentioned it, but one of the hippies took me in, and he was 21, I was 15. He became my foster father, and he and the pastor of the church that we ended up getting involved in, these two men really became my mentors. As well as, went back to high school. The teachers were fantastic. I'm not saying that I didn't have a challenge there, especially the first 6 months. I mean, I had a real smart mouth on me. I spent a lot of time at the head teacher's office, getting, spoken to, and having to stay after school for what we call detention. But, I began to get my life straightened up, and I began to get on the right track, and I began to read the right books. I remember the very first book that my foster father ever gave me when I was 15 was called The Power of Positive Thinking. The second book he gave me was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And those two books were so foundational to my young mind of going, wow, if I just get the right attitude and I start learning people skills and learning how to get along with people, the world's my oyster. I mean, my history doesn't have to become my destiny, but I have to be the one to take control of this. God's not going to do it for me. My foster father's not going to do it for me. My pastor's not going to do it for me. Nobody else. I have to take personal responsibility. And I think that that is where the entrepreneurial bug really began to develop in me. As Margot and I were going to university, I just said, I want to own my own business. I want to be in control of my own future. I don't want to work for someone else. I'm sure some of that was some of that rebellion in me. I didn't want this. I didn't want someone putting their thumb on me, And so I did work for a company because I realized that I needed to kind of serve an apprenticeship, if you will. So from age 19 until I was 24, I worked in financial services, had some wonderful mentors, but I always knew that I didn't want to be working for someone else. And when I saw A.L. Williams when I was 24 years old in the States, now called Primerica, and that's what our business model, Genestar, is based on, I was like, wow, here's an opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to be in business for myself, but not by myself, which is a big problem in entrepreneurship, is you feel like maybe you're an island. All of a sudden, Alex, I was surrounded by all of these positive-minded people that were successful, and they had an interest in helping me on the journey. And at age 24, I was broke because I didn't understand anything about money, saving. I understood how to spend money, and I was really good. I had a great credit rating. I mean, I don't think Margot and I were ever late on a payment, but I was broke. Wow. And at 24, I was broke. And 6 years later, at age 31, my net worth was over $1 million. So by the time we were 31 years old, we were millionaires, practicing all the principles that company taught us, and which there's only about 10 principles, which I was so excited to find out. It's not that difficult to become financially independent. And so, again, it goes back to find a mentor. And in that particular case, I found multiple mentors because I had all of these other vice presidents around me, friends that I began to make that were all on this journey together of really developing themselves and self-development and getting better.
Where does your inner strength come from then? At all that time, working up to where you connected with A.L. Williams from 15, all those former years, where did your inner strength come from?
Well, I certainly, can answer that from age 15 on, because when I, found the Lord, and that really changed my whole life, my whole attitude about life, I began to realize that I had a heavenly Father that cared for me like a natural father. And I know some people won't be able to relate to this, but I never knew what it was like really to have a loving father, or someone, Alex, that said, hey, Jeff, have you ever thought about this might be your gift in your life? Would you like to go to university and do that? And all of a sudden I began to realize that I had people surrounding me, my foster father, my pastor, teachers, and as I began to read the Bible as well as other books, I just began to get, an inner confidence that God had a plan for my life, and it wasn't for bad. It wasn't, he wasn't there trying to hit me on the head with some kind of judgment or some kind of rules and regulations, but it was kind of like, hey kid, yeah, you did screw up in your life, but so is everybody else, just in different dimensions or different amounts. And so I began to affiliate myself and hang out with the right people, read the right books, get the right information into me, start thinking right. And that began to give me the confidence that I could become an entrepreneur, and that not only could I become successful, but that I deserved to be able to become successful.
Wow. We just got Colette coming through. It says, love how you showed your entrepreneurial spirit at such a young age, Jeff. And So sometimes we scold our children. We scold them for the things that they do, not realizing that what's being birthed in them is the entrepreneurial side, but
Mm.
we couldn't see it, we couldn't spot it, we couldn't see it. But coming out of you, something happened that birthed a spirit in you, birthed a survival spirit, and that connected you to your creator. It connected you
Yeah.
to your creator, and then someone helped you to get the right books in place. So guys, what I'm saying to you today is that there is no one that cannot come back from adversity against all odds. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter how much of a wretch people might think you are right now. You can become a better version of yourself. That's what Jeff is saying to us today. That's virtually what he's saying. But you know what? There was one thing that you said just now, that God's not going to do it for you. God's not going to do it for you. You're going to have to get above your ass and do something. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to make that. And part of the journey in your book, Jeff, there was a portion there that is dedicated to hard work, graft, to get you to where you are today.
Yeah.
You want to speak about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting as I've traveled around the world and spoken in all kinds of places, loads of churches, and a lot of people talk to me about, well, it just seems to me, Jeff, like you're a little bit of a workaholic. And I said, well, let me give you a scripture in the Bible. It says, 6 days thou shalt labor, the seventh thou shalt rest. And so I said, I probably have been a workaholic, but I love what I do. I found my calling. I found my gift. And so, I think for me, Alex, I never minded the work. I mean, I fell in love, and that would be one of the keys I would give to people, is find something that you can really fall in love with. And when I saw this business that I could help other people become financially independent, I don't know how many times I thought to myself, what would have happened if there was a Genistar or a Primerica that could have sat down with my mom and dad back in the 1960s and said, here's financial education. Here's how to get out of the dilemma that you're in. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. I don't know if it would have prevented his suicide or not, but I do know that what we do is that when you find a problem in society, and I believe this is the key to entrepreneurship, find a problem where people are hurting and fix it. Well, oh my gosh, if people ever needed to get on the road to financial freedom and get their finances straightened out and plan for retirement and save money and get out of debt, it's today, so I found my calling at 24 years old, and I've been doing this now for 40 years. And every day I wake up, I'm not saying that there's, every once in a while you don't go, man, I'm ready to cash in my chips and go to the south of Spain and call it quits. I mean, I paid my dues, but I have to remember where I came from. And my commitment is to help as many people that have the desire to learn how to become financially free. So for me, entrepreneurship is really all about, if you help enough people solve their problem and reach their goals, you'll reach your goals.
Wow. I mean, Colette's come forward again saying we need to get young people to listen to this interview. There's so many wise words and insights that they can learn from Jeff right here.
Yeah.
It's possible. All you have to do is find a problem and fix it.
Yeah.
Help enough people get what they want, and you get what you want. You see, that's not the school system in which we've been educated, Jeff. Our school system doesn't tell us that. Our school system doesn't make it seem so simple to solve a problem and help enough people get what they want. Our school system injects a lot of information into our heads that segments us from ever thinking that all we need to do is help each other. How could we ever change our school system to help us think the way you're thinking right now?
Mm. You know, as you originally started out talking about the pandemic, and you know, in fact, Alex, I was listening to some of your other podcasts, and mental health is a huge issue right now. And I think I got the answer. I got the answer to good mental health. You ready for it?
I'm going. I'm taking my notepad up now, man. I'm getting my pen and saying, "All right, I'm going to take this one down because this is a gold."
Because I think you're a master at this already, which is when you get your mind off of your problems and you focus on helping other people, you don't have enough time to worry about your own mental health problems because you're so focused on helping other people to solve their problems.
Wow.
And again, that's what I love about our business is that my whole life is focused on helping our leaders to become better, to earn more, to self-improve, to become. So I just don't have that much time to have much of a pity party and sit here and go, oh my gosh, my mental health. I spend my time focusing on how can I become better and how can I help other people to become better. And I really believe that that is the key. It's amazing how that when we help others, whether it's helping your neighbor with a meal or grocery shopping or doing what we do in financial counseling and financial coaching, it's just amazing how that when you help other people, because the good Lord made us like this, that when we help others, it makes us feel good about ourselves. And so I really believe that that's a real key to mental health. And it goes back to what you said earlier, Alex, is that we need each other. We really do. You know, we have a little saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And I've never seen anybody ever accomplish anything great on their own.
Correct.
You know, I mean, I hate to think what a mess my life would be without my lovely wife, okay, and without all of my wonderful teammates and my church family and other people. I mean, I don't try to be everything to everybody because I'm just not that good. I'm good in a specific area. I have a gift in one area, but there's so many other areas that I'm not gifted in. And I think that's the key is just having those friendships and relationships with people like yourself, like you and your lovely wife, not your daughter, but your wife, Sharon. You know, you guys are just such great leaders, but more importantly, you're my friends. And I think that that's a real key to mental health is just doing for others and how can you help serve people? That really is really what, whether it's business or life, just learn how to serve others.
Wow. And this one statement I've just put up there, 7 years to becoming a millionaire, 7 years to seven figures. And in those
6 years.
7 years, sorry?
6 years, but that's okay. Who's counting?
6 years then to becoming a seven-figure earner. And in those 6 years, all you did was help other people.
Yeah.
Now, and sometimes the reason why sometimes we can't move ahead because it is so simple that it is too simple for our minds to digest it. All I have to do is help enough people get what they want.
Yeah.
And I will get an end result in my own life. How can we get that message into the hearts of people that it's real, Jeff?
Yeah. You know, I think, Alex, and my apologies, I didn't answer that about young people, but I think that probably the best example, and I think it serves for both young people as well as adults. You know, leadership is all about leading from the front and showing. It's amazing how that most kids, you know, we don't learn from what you tell us. We learn from what we see. So many adults back when I was a kid, it used to frustrate me. I mentioned it in my book. They used to say, don't do what I do what I say. Well, the fact is that, you know, we can't be hypocrites. So if I tell you to serve others, but I don't serve others, then obviously I'm not practicing what I preach. And I really think that it goes back to getting our egos out of the way. There's such an interesting story in the New Testament where this mother of two boys comes to Jesus and says, which one's going to sit on the right and which one's going to sit on the left. They were looking for a position. And I love Jesus's response, which is, let him that's greatest amongst you be servant to all. And it really is amazing how that when we keep a humble spirit about us, we all have an ego, but when we learn how to serve others, and it doesn't mean that you can serve everybody. It's just, I get emails and inquiries all the time that I can't respond to just because of my schedule. And you can't, if you gave out to everybody that asks, you go broke. But I do believe that if we can learn how to serve people, whether it's in politics or religion or business or partners, okay? Margot and I have been married for 45 years, and people always ask me, what's the key? What's the key to a happy marriage? And I got, I joke around and I say it's two words, yes, dear. But really, I think that the key is just learn to serve each other. I love to get Margot a cup of tea. I love to make her lunch. I love to help her. I love to open the door for her. She's still my girlfriend from high school. Okay.
You hear that, guys? A cup of tea, lunch, and a cup of tea. That will do it, guys. You got that?
Absolutely. Alex, I still buy her flowers and still buy her chocolates, even when she tells me don't buy them because they make her fat, okay? I quit doing that for a while. I bought her some fruit. She goes, where's my chocolates? I said, you told me don't buy anymore. She said, don't you know women don't always mean what they say? But
Jeff, you're going to get us in trouble now, Jeff. You're going to get us in trouble.
Well, and you know what? She does the same thing for me. She really is. She just, and we just, I think it's all about learning how to serve each other. And here's a statement that I have, which is, if you just treat people like you did when you were dating them, okay, then you'll have a great marriage. And I think in business, it's like, I remember when Sharon and you came into Genistar. Well, you know what? If I want to have a good relationship with you and Sharon, all I have to do is just treat you like you weren't in Genistar and like I was trying to win you to Genistar. And it's amazing, again, how that it goes back to this servant leadership. Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy, yeah. But servant leadership, I really believe that, if people, again, whether they were in politics or, and I'm not talking about what parties or anything else, but boy, if we could just demonstrate this to kids, that there's absolutely nothing wrong in serving others. In fact, it really is, I think, the greatest thing that we can do in life.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you, what was the most important thing you learned from your mentor? But I think you just said it, really. What was the greatest thing you learned from your mentors, Jeff?
I would say that was it. Is both in business and also in my faith. And listen, guys, I'm not a perfect human being. To my knowledge, there was only one of those, and they nailed him on a cross. Okay. So, we're all imperfect. We all mess up every single day of our lives. You're never going to be perfect. That's just part of the journey in life. But yeah, I would say, Alex, that was the biggest thing is, and I did make a list here because you asked me to give kind of my breakthrough points.
We're going to get there, Jeff. But before we get there, Jeff, I just want to say to the audience, I don't know where you're tuning in from. I don't know where you're coming in from. It may be good morning. It may be good afternoon. It may be good evening. But today we've been talking about the path to success against all odds. And some of the nuggets that we've gleaned from today's session, it doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done. you can become a better version of yourself. You can find a better version of yourself. But you've got to realize one thing. We need each other. And if we help each other, if we help other people, if we take the focus off ourselves and help other people become what they're meant to be, help other people get what they want, you too will get what you want. That's the message coming from Jeff Lestz, CEO of Genistar, an entrepreneur, a six-figure earner, a seven-figure earner, a gentleman who has dedicated his life to helping other people. He's crossed 2 continents just to do that. He has crossed 2 continents just to help people, just so you and I can get a message and replicate it to the rest of the world. That is amazing, Jeff. You know, I'm so pleased that I got you on the show, Jeff, because, wow, the nuggets are coming out of you. No business school teaches what you teach. No MBA program teaches what you teach. The MBA programs that we have and the business skills that we teach gets people so lost in technicality that they forget that they're dealing with individuals. They forget that we're dealing with real people with real problems. And all we're looking for is real solutions to, you know, to help us get where we want to go. That is amazing, great, Jeff. And I said to you today, guys, if you stay to the end of the show,
Alex, is it me or are you cutting out?
Stay to the end of the show. You're gonna get 5 nuggets, 5 points. I'm going to that point right now. The devil is going to share the nugget. But before we do that, we need to talk.
You are listening to the Message Talk Show and Podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon.
We did have a technicality there. But yes, we're still streaming. So Jeff, what are the 5 key points?
That's great. Well, you know, Alex, as you were, if I can just make a point about what you were talking about school, I think oftentimes in business school, what they teach you is get all you can all you get, and then sit on your can. Okay. And my philosophy, and again, I'm not the one that came up with this, which again, I think that most people, your human instinct would be to love money and use people. If you can swap that around and
you are listening to the
and love people and use money, that's the key. Is don't fall in love with money, fall in love with serving people. So, Alex, I would say that my 5 breakthrough points would be, number 1, find your gift. Find what you are good at. You know, it's interesting, and I know a lot of people on here might be interested, you know, be familiar with the scripture, train up a child in the way they should go and they'll not depart from it. It's actually talking about train up a child in what their gift is, and if they can stay in that gift. In other words, if they're supposed to be a doctor, don't try to get them to be an editor. Okay, A lot of parents go, well, I want you to do what I'm doing. I want you to be a lawyer because I'm a lawyer and your grandfather was a lawyer. No, find the gift that the kid has and then encourage them in that area of their life. Now, I don't know that I really had anybody to encourage me in that area. I just kept after it and finally realized that my gift was in this area of helping people to become financially independent. So number one would be find your gift. Number two would be find a mentor in whatever it is that you want to do. Find an expert in whatever you want to do, and then do exactly what they tell you to do. And that is such a key for breakthrough. I mentioned earlier about having a partner, and I'm not just saying this, but it seems like all of the bad decisions I've ever made were when I didn't consult Margot or I didn't listen to her counsel. Okay. And I'm not just giving lip service to that, but it's so important for you to have someone that's your best mate. And in this particular case is Margot. And all the right decisions, all the great decisions I've ever made were always when I consulted with her. We laid out the facts. She asked me the tough questions, even when I didn't want to be questioned on it. And then, Alex, you mentioned about teamwork. Boy, oh boy, build a team of people, surround yourself with like-minded people that you want to become like, and everybody has that same goal. And then lastly, I would say, if I only get 5, make sure you're having fun in life. Life's too short. This is not a dress rehearsal. You're only going to go through this once. And so live your life like every day is kind of the last day, but also live it to where if you were to check out today, that you could look back on your life and say, wow, I left it all on the field. I worked hard, but I played hard, and I had a lot of fun. I built great relationships with people. And when I do finally go like this, there's going to be a lot of people miss me, but more than likely, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to tell their kids and their grandkids about how you became their mentor and helped change their lives. That's my 5. I got more, but I'll stop there. Alex, if they want the 16 of them, they got to get the book.
Just hold it up, Jeff. Hold the book up. Bring it closer to the camera. Yes, it says, Against All Odds, Jeff Lestz. The remarkable true story of a street kid who became a millionaire. The remarkable story of a street kid who became a millionaire. Jeff, it's so encouraging to believe and to feel and to know that there's always hope for everybody. There isn't hope just for one set of people. There isn't hope just for a set of people born into the right class.
That's right.
There isn't hope for people who's has had the hereditary assets all their life just handed down to them. But a street kid from the street, against all odds, can become the best version of himself and help millions of other people do exactly the same thing in life. Jeff, I thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I've been excited about doing this, and I want you to know, I think you already know this, but I love you and Sharon and your family, and just have so much respect for you guys and think that you're doing a great work here with this podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And so as we close today, as we come to the end of a special broadcast, a special podcast, Jeff, I always ask the interviewees to give one word or a sentence. But, some people, sometimes when you ask for a sentence, they turn into a paragraph. They turn into a whole chapter. But is there a key word that you'd like to leave with the audience at this moment, Jeff, as we close?
You can do it, whatever it is. Let me give a quote by Napoleon Hill. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve. But you have to conceive it first. You know, hey, Jeff, I forgot you to ask this one question, you know. I always ask this question, you know, because I always talk about what is your dream. When did the dreamer surface in your life? When did the dreamer surface? When did the dreamer surface in your life?
You know, I think when I got into what is Primerica in the U.S., and I began to hang around people that began to talk to me about that dreams were even possible. You know, most people, Alex, if you ask them, what's your goals? Most people go, well, to survive. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, that's like depressing, okay, just to survive. And when I got around other people, I began to hang around possibility thinkers.
Hey, possibility thinkers.
Yeah, you know, the word impossible, if you break it apart, actually it says I'm possible. And when I began to hang around those possibility thinkers, I began to realize that if they can do it, I can do it.
Yes.
And again, I think that's another reason that you need other people, is to cheer you on and to encourage you. And if you're not hanging around those kind of people, you might want to change the crowd.
Wow. And that's it, guys. Look out for possibility thinkers, because when you're around possibility thinkers, you become possible. But if you can't find any, change your crowd.
Right.
If you can't find any where you are, change your crowd, change your audience. Find some people, find some possibility thinkers. Jeff, I thank you so much for tuning in today.
Alex, when you were just talking there, I was thinking of Jim Rohn, and he says, change your life if you're not happy with it. You're not a tree. You're not a tree, okay? You can grow somewhere else. You know, I moved here all the way from America, had a great life in the U.S., but decided to come here. You know why? Because we decided that we were ready for a new adventure. And I just want to encourage all your people. You can do it. And hang around possibility thinkers like Alex Gordon. Thank you, Alex.
Are you ready for a new adventure? Are you ready for a new adventure? Find some possibility thinkers. And tell you what, guys, just change your crowd. You can grow. You're not a tree. Your Jeff Lestz says you're not a tree. You can grow somewhere else. All you got to do is shift and move. He crossed the whole continent for a new adventure. Hey, all you got to do is come out of your house. Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you so much, Jeff, for this. And I think we've got one more comment coming up here. Let me just see. Someone just acknowledges. So true. Hey, so true. So true. So true. So thank Jeff Lestz. For further information, Jeff Lestz, CEO of Jenny Star Limited, author of True Riches Against All Odds. There's his Twitter handle. There's his website. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for tuning in today. I thank you for coming on board and listening to the Message Talk Show. Tune in again next Thursday when we tune in. We go live again for another special broadcast on the Message Talk Show. Thank you so much, guys, as we play out. Miss the show. You got to be on the show.